Hi all, thanks for clicking on the video. One thing I always like to put on my scooters are footplates, aluminium footplates. I think they look quite smart. I think they just give a little touch of individuality to the bike. But of course, the SR GT is a brand new machine out, so nobody is yet making footplates for it. So what do? I'll have a go at making my own. Let's see how we go. So first job is to cut some paper strips so we can take a template of the space where the footrest would need to go. Okay, so now we want to make a template that's going to allow me to cut a more solid template, not a paper one, and then I can go around it and onto the metal hopefully. So template time. So now we've got the paper templates, we're going to transfer these onto cardboard, so we've got something more substantial that I can line up with the spaces on the running board and just make sure we've got it right before we even think about moving on to some kind of metal. Right, so that's the transfers copied onto cardboard. So we're going to cut these out and then we can just see how accurate they are, make any slight adjustments we need to, and then they will do for cutting out the metal. So there we have it, the original paper templates and cardboard templates. So I'm just going to check these now against the marks on the bike's footrest and just see how close they are, make any minor adjustments, and then we can move on to the next stage. Okay, so just a double check to see how the templates are looking on the bike. It's pretty close. We've got, the lighting's not very good, but the one up here too. Might need a slight adjustment that one, but not too bad. So we've now ordered up the metal sheet and we've just got to wait till that arrives. Then we can get some cutting done. Okay, so we've got our bit of metal checker plate. Yeah, this is actually the wrong way up. The checker plate parts is on the bottom because we're getting ready to cut it. This cost about £15 off eBay. It's a ½ metre square piece of checker plate, which is more than enough to do the 4 foot pads and also some spare in the middle just in case there's a cock up, which there may well be. As you can see, I do all my work in the spare bedroom. I don't have a fancy garage with all the latest equipment that you see in a lot of these YouTube videos. I try to show how you can do things very basically and inexpensively to improve the look of your bike. And anyone who's watched my previous Honda Zoomer videos will know that I even had the entire back section of the Honda Zoomer off in this room, changing over bearings and drive gear and all kinds of things. And it's all doable. You don't have to have the latest stuff in a fancy garage. So what I've done here is I've attached the checker plate onto this. This is just a basic £20 workmate thing that you can get from a DIY shop. Couple of clamps. Again, you can buy clamps under a tenner for 2 really good quality clamps, well under a tenner on eBay, and a couple of off bits of MDF just to hold it down. So we're going to now look at getting the jigsaw to start. Now, as you can see, as you've probably noticed, I did a couple of cuts at work using a jigsaw I had there because they've got a big garage that I could use to set it up. And I thought, well, you know, I'll do it in the garage at work. Unfortunately, the jigsaw they had was, to put it bluntly, crap. So I stopped very quickly because it wasn't working out the way I wanted. And I thought, well, I'm trying to do this at the end of the day after a busy day at work. You know, I'm tired, I'm not really concentrating, so I'm going to leave the whole thing until I'm off today for the weekend, and I can bring the whole stuff home and just try and do it properly. So we're going to now try and cut this. I have a battery-powered DeWalt jigsaw with a metal blade in. Hopefully that's going to get through it. I've clamped the wood in such a way that this bit here is going to act as a guide for the jigsaw to go along, just so we try and get as straight a line as possible. I mean, it's not going to be millimetre perfect, but you know, if we can try and get it as accurate as possible, it should look okay. So this is the first very small cut I'm going to do here, and then we'll move on to some bigger ones. So I'm not going to film all this cutting because, you know, I don't have a tripod big enough really to do it. So I'm going to take the jigsaw, and as you can see, put that in there, and We're going to run it across the first cut here, and I'll let you know how that goes in a moment. I should of course mention one thing you do need is safety goggles. Don't attempt this without safety goggles, that's a bad idea. So as you can see, a decent jigsaw and a decent blade makes all the difference. It's cut through, it's slightly off, but I don't think that'll matter much. And I'm just going to cut this bit off so I can start going up the bigger lines, which we're going to make sure we get as straight as possible. Okay, on to the next stage. Okay, another little tip. Rather than try and judge the exact place to put this guide by eye only, I've created a little template here out of a bit of a shoebox. Now this is the same width as the distance from the blade to the support bit on the jigsaw. So if I marry that along the line I want to cut and then clamp the wood sort of level, we should get a perfect cut and we won't get little bits missing which we've got a little bit of here. Try it anyway, see if it works. So that's what I mean by the guide. This cardboard guide is the width between the jigsaw blade and the edge of the jigsaw, and if I put that along the line I'm trying to cut, clamp the wood accordingly, that should provide me with a straight line, which should make it a bit easier to get a neater finish. We'll see how we get on. Right, well that didn't work at all. The jigsaw blade was still pulling into the middle. Now maybe I'm just forcing the blade a bit too much. But anyway, we've got plenty of spare checker plate, so we can redraw this and try again. Right, so I'm actually finding this is a really good jigsaw and a really good blade, and I'm actually finding cutting it slowly by hand without using the guide is actually doing a better job, and we can tidy this up with a file afterwards. So that's the first long cut, and that's pretty good. There's a little bit here, but again, going over with a file should get that out. So we're going to persevere and see how I get on with this. I'll get back to you when and if I've finished. So there we go, guys. That's footplate number 1. As I say, needs deburred, just sand it down, and I'm a little bit off here, but that can be filed off. Footplate number 1 looks all right. Now just 3 more to go. Okay, so half an hour later we have a set of footplates. Now I forgot to point out this is a 1.5mm checker plate aluminium. Not too difficult to cut. What advice would I give? I would say definitely clamp the aluminium down using, as you saw, the MDF and the clamps. It makes it a lot easier. I would also, if you can, get a jigsaw that has a variable speed trigger rather than one that just has a button or a dial you twist for set speeds. A variable trigger gives you much more control. It's much better. You don't really need the guides. I found it much easier to cut actually without them. Get yourself obviously a metal blade. This isn't a special aluminium blade, it's just a standard metal blade. And you know, give it a go. So the next thing obviously, let's pop this down. The next thing obviously I've got to do is take my templates back down to the bike and work out where the holes go to copy the screws. Just give them a general deburring, make sure there's no little sharp bits sticking up, just go over with a fine file. Put them on and see what it looks like. So next stop is to drill holes for these screw spaces. So as my jigsawing is not going to be as accurate as the original templates where it's bound to be off by a mil or two here and there, I'm using the templates themselves to draw another template which will be used to place on the bike and identify where the bolt holes are, because I want to use obviously the bolt holes that are on the bike already, so I need to identify roughly, well not roughly, exactly where they are. So a new template based on the actual pieces of metal I've cut. So I'm just taking the templates, placing them exactly where I want them to go on the bike, and you can feel the bolt hole. There's one here, there's 2 on the bottom. I'll probably need to put a bit of something sticky behind here just to hold this if there's only one bolt hole, but it's fine. So just even with your finger, you can make the mark exactly where you need the drill hole to be. So we're going to do that with all 4 templates, then we can go back up and drill the holes. Right, so I've attached the the new templates to the metal, marked where the holes are. So I'm just going to get a metal drill bit now, and or an HSS drill bit I should say, and drill a hole through. This is the bolt that comes out of the footrest. I think this is an M8. It's obviously quite short and it's recessed, so that's not going to be any good. What I'm going to use in place, hopefully, stop that falling, is I've got an Allen bolt here, and I've also got some of these little, I think they were password or something, caps, which the bolt fits into. These were things I had left over from the Zuma, which I never used. So with a bit of luck, that'll do it. I might have to shorten the bolt a bit if it's too long, but hopefully that'll do the job. Okay guys, foot plates on, and I have to say I think they look alright. I didn't actually have enough of these password things to do the upper plate, but then I think that's just as well because this is much more flush with the surface. These are raised quite a lot, so I think I'll probably lose these, get some more of these, and just put 2 of them in. I think these are M6 bolts, not M8 as I said. What do you think? For an afternoon's work, I don't think that's too bad. Have a quick look at the other side. Yeah, quite pleased with that. Okay guys, thanks for joining me through that journey. That worked out a lot better than I expected it to. Hope it's given you some ideas. If you've got any suggestions or comments, by all means drop me a line. I'm always open to hearing new things. Obviously at some point, hopefully somebody will produce some proper foot plates for the bike and I'll be the first to buy them. But in the meantime, I think my homemade ones look okay. A good project for a rainy afternoon anyway. Thanks as always guys, all the best. Like and subscribe if you can, and I'll see you next time.